Hello, hi everyone. So I'm actually making this video to let you all know how I cleared my PMP exam in less than 20 days of preparation, and what are the materials that I have used, what are the practice tests that I use, what was my exam experience, what was my reflection of the exam, and what are my tips for anybody who wants to do it. I personally think that this exam is doable in like 2-3 weeks. If you want to, why not, right? So why you don't want to spend all your life, I mean at least 2-3 months of your life trying to study the material, and then just having the anxiety, the exam stress for so long. Let's get it done in a shorter period of time if it is possible, so before we jump into the details of what I did and everything else, so I'll give a little bit background about myself. So I have working experience as a project manager for about 6 years. So meaning to say I have done projects like small, medium, large, end to end, like from budget proposal till invoicing, whatever comes in between. And apart from that, I personally have experience of running agile transformation workshops, so I do know what are the bad practices in agile, how to weed them out, what you should like big no-nos. So apart from that, I have personally also read PMBOK back in 2017, because that's the time I was taking my CAPM exam, so I had that exam as well. So this time, I think most of the time when I was studying, most of the things were like kind of refresher for me. So all right, so let's go. Week 1 of my study, where I focused, I got the Joseph Phillips course on Udemy, where I have years and years of experience of watching videos on, at the speed of 2. One day, if like YouTube tries to, introduce the speed of 3, I am easily going to train myself to understand at the speed of 3, because I love saving my time. Why not, right? So everybody loves saving their time. So that's why I was able to cut off the 35-hour content into like 17, something like that, right? So the Joseph Phillips course took me about 2 to 3 days, so I was able to finish the entire course 2 to 3 days. The whole agenda for me to go through the Joseph Phillips course was to get the holistic idea of the entire PMBOK 6, because back in 2017 it was based off PMBOK 5. I couldn't personally tell much difference, but there was some difference. After the Joseph Phillips course, since I had joined, I have a lot of people in my network who have done PMP in their career, and I had also joined the Reddit group where people were posting success stories every single day. So, and they were also posting their exam experience, their recommendations and stuff like that. So yeah, so a lot of recommendation about coming that, hey, you do have to read the Agile Practice Guide. I was a bit confused on how I'm going to read it. Should I read it end to end, or should I just finish, learn the frameworks and finish, and then forget about the tailoring part? But I ended up reading it end to end. I also personally recommend you read it end to end, because I think the tailoring part is something which is crucial, because in exam you will be tested on how can you fit the information, it's just like a puzzle, you take small pieces of those puzzles and fit them together and make the whole board, basically something like that. So apart from Joseph Phillips, okay, so I did the Joseph Phillips Agile Practice Guide, and then I did the Rita's 10th edition. Actually, before Rita's, I was thinking that I'm going to do the PMBOK 6, but I actually did not, which is good. Because Rita's book, initially, before you even start reading, the chapters, the chapter 1 or 2, I think it's dedicated to teaching you what should be your mindset, how are you going to look at the questions, what are the traps in the exam, how to not fall into those traps, how is the exam going to confuse you, how are you not going to be taken away with those confusions, and how to find the right answer. So I think that is a major part of my success. It's because for me, I do understand that I had a lot of idea about the overall project management idea, overall agile. I knew what it was, I knew frameworks, but I did not necessarily knew like how the exam is going to be. So for example, from Rita's book, I have learned that the exam is going to be lengthy. I mean, the questions are going to be lengthy, and that there might be some information which is totally irrelevant, or there will be like, hey, you need to whatsoever. So there are, I think that's like 2-3 pages of 2-3 page stuff, which is like the meat of that book. So going to the Rita's book, about 600 something pages took me about a week to go through, and I also attempted each and every chapter end question at her at the end of the chapter, and if ever I got anything wrong, I checked why I got it wrong, and then I tried to make sense about it. So I was scoring already, like at the end of every chapter I scored like 70 to 80% most of the time. But I also think that I was not confident because I was thinking that I just read it and the content is like really fresh in my mind. That is why I'm able to get them correctly. So my confidence was a lot shaky at the time, because I was like, right now I'm doing it chapter by chapter, that's why I'm able to get it. But what if everything is just so combined? I might just totally get lost. And it is possible, you can get lost, right? After that, since I was in this group, a lot of people were recommending the Andrew Ramadale's course. So I went and purchased his Udemy course, where I focused mainly on the Agile part of it, because people were saying that, well, that's what people were saying, that the JOSP's course is not good enough for the Agile part of it. So I got the other one just to supplement. And I also read the Agile. Okay, so this is 2 weeks already. So week 1 was allocated to doing the Joseph Phillips course and reading the Agile practice guide. And then week 1 was also like checking out some random videos, because that was my first week. I want to just get as much holistic picture I could get before digging very deep down into the material. So the week 2 was consumed all by Rita. I mean, like, this lady, I don't know, I was thinking that I'm gonna read like 100 page a day, but I mean that my speed was actually much slower than I thought, because I think the thing is also like, if you're reading for the sake of reading, or if you're reading for the sake of understanding. So I personally would like to say that I try to read the Rita's book for the sake of understanding things. So of course you're going to read it much slower as compared to, you know, just skimming through it. All right, so that's my, okay, so that is the first 2 weeks. And I met somebody on LinkedIn who forced me to take the exam. Actually, now we are, actually I'll say this, that you know, I booked my exam like 1 month prior to the date. I was thinking I'm gonna study for a month, but the first week I couldn't really find the time, because there's work and then there is life that gets in the way, right? So that could not happen. So after that, I was like, okay, now I have 3 weeks, and it was a hard set date for me, which was not necessarily movable, because I have things which need to happen after 21st April, because 21st is when I booked my exam, and there was no way I could move it after. And of course, so I was like, okay, I'm going to do it regardless I pass or not, right? So the end of 2 weeks, and I was like, okay, I had no confidence that I was going to do it. My initial plan was to go through the material one more time, like, you know, do the Joseph's course, do the Agile practice guide, read the Rita's book, but I did not really have that luxury of time to really go through the material like one more time. I'm like, how am I going to do it, right? So after that, well, somebody pushed me to take the exam, like the full practice exam. Boom! I got 74% in the very first test, and I was like, wow, how did this even happen, right? So I felt I was lucky, or I guessed the answers, so I didn't really still have the confidence. So I was like, okay, let's do one more test. So the next day I took another test, and boom, it's another 75. Okay, so from the feedback from a number of people, they said that if you can score in the line of 70s, you're prepared, you're good to go. I was like, okay, I have 1 week, but if it is possible, I would rather do my exam like sooner, so I can finish my exam stress, you know, so, you know, I can be done with it. So, but that could not happen for a number of reasons, and I was like, okay, I cannot really prepone it, and I will stick to my original date. So there it is. So after that, I kind of lost the motivation to study anymore, because I was like, I think I'm ready. But I did analyze my practice test, and I found that my handle on the definitions was not too strong, and I was confusing some of the terms. So yeah, that's about my study prep and how I did it. So prior to the exam, I took one more test, so that was like 78%. So it is like 180 multiplied by 3. I don't know how many. So 520? I don't know. So whatsoever. So 180 into 3. So that's the number of questions I did, and plus 400 from Rita's book. So now the exam day. Let's talk about my exam experience. So the very first time when I saw the exam, I started attempting it, and at the end of the section, I was thinking I'm going to fail, because okay, so I was like, okay, I'm going to fail like this. That was hard, and it was very confusing, and it was very vague. I could never understand the meaning of a question like in one read. No, that was not the case. I need to read like 1, 2, 3 to really understand what are you trying to ask me and how should I answer. Because the question is confusing you, the answers are also confusing you. So you might be able to, eliminate 1 or 2 choices from there, but then there will be 2 that will really frustrate you. And you're like, okay, I don't know which one is the correct one, but okay, I'm just gonna go with my gut feeling, right? So yeah, so the only good thing about part 1 was where I was able to because what I was trying to do was that the entire exam time I was trying to divide it into 3 parts, so I could be like part 1, 2, and 3. And within I finished my part 1 within my target, so that I was like, okay, so now I have done the part 1, and I messaged a friend, so like, this exam's so hard and I'm going to fail. So I had already prepared myself, like, I am going to fail. There is no way I'm going to pass, because I didn't have that feeling, that confidence that this is going well, right? Because you should have some sort of confidence that, okay, this is going to go well. Part 2, oh my god, that is where I spent most of my time. What happened was that I was thinking, of course, it was very lengthy, right? And most of the questions were very lengthy. I couldn't understand, and I think I still did good job, but it's also the time pressure. So what happened was, at the end of section 2, I was left with only 47 minutes remaining for the section 3. So 47 minutes, 60 questions, and if they're lengthy, you're dead, right? So I was like, okay, now what? I knew that it is not going to happen unless the section 3 comes with, one line questions, and boom, you can pick up the answer, and yeah, that is only a dream. It doesn't happen in reality. So the questions were again lengthy, and I ran out of time. For the last 15 questions, I couldn't really, deep read, so I tried to skim. So what my strategy was to read the stem of the question, and then I would read so I instead of reading the question top to down, I started reading it up. So I would read the last line, really read it, 1 line and 1.5 I would read it. The upper 2 lines I would only skim through the words, thinking, okay, where are you? What are you trying to ask me? Only the keywords. And then from the answers as well, I try to only skim, not really read, and then just take my best guess, because my goal was like for the last 15 minutes, it was like, I think like less than 5 minutes or something remaining. And I was like, oh no, I have to at least, next. But yeah, so at the, I think for about 10 questions, I was able to do this, skim and guess. But then the last 5 questions, I couldn't even see them. So I was personally thinking that, I will click submit, I will wait for 2 minutes, and then boom, I will be seeing, okay, congratulations, or goodbye, do it again. So it was like, time up, congratulations, right away. Whew, did I pass? How did I pass? Like, that was I couldn't believe my eyes. Like, it's not really possible. How did I even do it? And then I was again thinking that maybe I passed just the passing score, because that's because like throughout the exam I had no confidence, right? And then I was like, okay, and then after an hour, I think I got the report, and boom, it is above target in every domain. And now let's talk about my reflection. So after I got the exam report, it was marked like, so we have these three domains: people, process, business, environment. So for every domain it tries to tell you like medium, high, low, and all that. So for, I think, the ECO, so it has exam, content, outline. So it will tell you like task 1, 2, and 3 for whatsoever. So in that one I found out that the PMI, so here's the thing. I think that most of the practice exams that we do, it will tell you if your answer is like right or wrong. But I don't think there is such a thing like a wrong answer. It might just not be the best answer in that situation, but it does not mean it's wrong, right? So that is something. So because I personally think maybe you're getting marked on a scale like how right or how wrong, because most of my when I analyzed my report, it was most of like medium, low, or high, right? So most of my answers were mostly high, and then mostly some of them medium and mostly high. So I was like, okay, I've done a good job. You might have the similar experience where you have no confidence, but don't lose hope. I was literally the person who thought I was going to fail and had already prepared myself like, okay, this is not happening, I need to do it again. And that too after the very first part, like after 60 questions in, and 120 more to go, and I have no confidence, and because I was thinking that all those 60 might be wrong. So yeah, that is my reflection about the exam. The questions are going to be very vague. You might not understand what the question is trying to ask you. I think you need to really understand what the question is trying to ask you. And there's a funny thing happened during so I took this take the exam from home kind of. So you are doing this video calling with somebody, online proctored exam. So like sometimes I would read and then I would just tell myself, what did you just ask? What did you just say? Right? So the guy like messages me and says like, hey miss, can you please stop lip syncing and follow the exam rules, da 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 da. I was like, okay. So yeah, you might find yourself in a similar situation. You're like, you read the question and you'll be like, what are you trying to ask me? Like, you might question yourself as well. So let's go on to the last part of this video. I will be talking about what are my tips for anybody who is going to take this exam, and how can you do it. So what is the meat, right? So that's something everybody needs to know. So I think the very first thing I would say is that do not start reading any book unless you have holistic idea of what's happening. If you want to take a boot camp, or if you want to watch the videos, whatever, but don't necessarily start directly with the book, because if you don't have that real end-to-end project management world experience, you might really not be familiar with the terms that are being used and how they fit into the box, and how you can connect those smaller pieces together. So that's one. I would say get the holistic idea before you start reading the PMBOK, because nothing is linear, right? Nothing is going to happen in a sequence. Even if you are going to watch any videos, or if you are going to read the book, everything is going chapter by chapter. Everything is just, I mean, sure, you can wait until PMBOK 7, right? I mean, I didn't really want to put up that much amount of time waiting for it. I hope they will do something, make it better, so it's, I mean to say, like, it won't look like it's linear or sequential. So that is one. Get the holistic idea before you read any book. Number two would be to really get hold of the Rita's books, the PMIs, because I think it trains you, it trains your mindset, it trains your brain into thinking what are the kind of traps that the exam might throw on me, and how am I not going to fall into them, and how am I going to disregard the extra information, for example. So I think that is because what you're going to answer like is based on what is the best possible action, because the entire exam is trying to test your problem solving skills, or trying to test if you really know or if you really do have the experience, because if you have worked in a real environment. So I think that a lot of it also was because I have working experience, and I knew, I mean, I do understand there are a lot of people who would tell you that, hey, if you try to follow your work experience, you might fail the exam, that you should totally forget whatever you have been doing in your professional life and only focus on what the PMI is trying to teach you. But I think the missing part here is that, why does an organization, let's say, lack transparency, for example, with their customer? It might be the EF in the PMBOK language, right? Enterprise environmental factor, because you might not want to reveal the true prices or whatsoever. So there, as long as you understand that why is your real world experience deviating from the PMBOK, I think you're still good to go, as long as you know the why, right? It's all about understanding why you're doing what, and what is the consequence and stuff like that. So number 2 is know your terms, because I think if you do know your terms, that is half the work. Why am I saying this? Is you can get the holistic idea. You can really have end-to-end idea of what is happening in this world and how the projects are being run, but you can forget certain terms, and those terms are being used again and again in every other process, every other input, output, whatsoever. If you do not know what is the output of a certain process, what is the input of a certain document, you wouldn't, I mean, you're dead. Prepare for your funeral, right? So it's like you don't know why a certain process or a certain document or a certain thing is an output of a certain process. If you know the why, I think memorization is not needed necessarily, because why I say is that it can help you save time, because if you have the holistic idea already, do you need to keep on doing it again and again? Not necessarily. So I think that if you just go and read your terms again and again, you can really fit that idea into your brain, and then you can really eliminate the answers, and you would know where you stand. So that's the number 2, like know your terms. The third one is this is the major strategy that I have used during my test. I was trying to see where do I stand in this situation. So for example, the exam questions were all over the place. I mean, I do not recommend anybody to skip the PMBOK guide or skip that, because I had questions all over, like all the process groups, like Agile, Hybrid, whatever the other frameworks were there. There were even like these questions on the personality types and stuff like that. So yeah, so I do not recommend that you leave out any material, because the exam itself is not going to tell you that you are in this process group or in this process. It's just going to give you a scenario. So now sometimes, most of the times, I think it's not even going to tell you that it is an Agile or it's an hybrid or what. I think in my thinking, I think most of the exam was based out of like trying to get the best of the both worlds. For example, like even if the questions are maybe in a traditional project management style, for example, the process groups and stuff like that, the answer choices might actually have some sort of answers coming from the agile part of it, right? So I think that's something you need to know. Each and every process, what are their inputs and outputs, why are those inputs and outputs, and how can you combine the missing pieces together, so that you do not think that, hey, I am in the planning process of a traditional project management style, and this is how I'm going to answer, because the exam can give you the combination of both worlds. So that's something you need to watch out for. So I've talked about the Ritas, the terms, and the where do you stand. And yeah, I think if you really dedicate your time to doing it, you can do it. You don't necessarily have to be spending 2-3 months or whatever. I think it's doable as long as you do have the real world experience and you can reason out, use your logical skills. I think this exam is doable. You might have similar experience about thinking that you're going to fail, but trust me, thousands of people throughout the year do this exam, they pass. Many people pass. I mean, I know there are people who fail, but come on, there are many people who pass. So take that confidence, that positivity from people who are actually doing it, and try to get a buddy maybe who will push you, because I think I gained a lot of confidence when I got pushed because I couldn't like prepone my exam. I don't know if I told that story here, but yeah. So yeah, I think that's something, and you can do it. And once you have passed it, you can celebrate your exam eating the cake, because I forgot to tell you my cake story. Before I even started the exam, I ate my cake. I was trying to celebrate it too early. So I'm going to eat the cake now again because I love it. I just need an excuse. So yeah, all the best. So put all your questions in the comments below. I will try to answer as much as possible. Thank you.